to What's Working, everyone. This is Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. Our focus is workplace and workforce trends, as it always and ever will be. This show provides insight into businesses in our community that are doing things right, that are doing things differently, that are at the forefront of their whatever it may be, management, motivation of people. It could be product development. It could be new product development. We find them, we highlight them, we talk about them, we share their stories. And we've enjoyed it now for over 100 episodes, and we'll continue doing this. However, I have to say this, that as I record this, we are in the coronavirus meltdown here in Mobile, Alabama, as well as everywhere else around the world, it seems. What that means to you is in the background, you might hear my children. You might hear my dog. We are doing this from home right now, and I've got this home studio set up, and I got 4 kids, all whom are trying to take online classes and who are arguing over food and breakfast and Xbox and things like that. I've put signs on the doors. I've walked to each child and made eye contact with them and said, I'm going in to record a show. Please be quiet. And they've all looked at me and said, I understand, Dad. We will do whatever makes you happy. Actually, that's not at all what they said. They just kind of mumbled and like they understood. So I beg your patience as we all kind of muddle through this. Each of you has your own hardship tale right now. Nevertheless, we're going to continue to focus this show on the businesses that are changing people and things out there and find a ray of sunshine in each of them, which I think we all could use right now. And today's show certainly will be no exception to that. In fact, it's one that perhaps will even be a little, let's say a little bit better. There's a company called ShipShape Farms, and I had not known of them till I was introduced to them by a former guest on this show. And what they do is they grow plants in containers that are movable around the country, and I would suspect, and we'll soon find out, around the world. These are containers you see on container ships that are self-contained with their own energy sources, etc., water, and inside the container is a garden. And these gardens are being used in urban communities as well as, I suspect, very arid places where the efficiency of these types of things is of great value to them. We're going to meet the co-founder and CEO of the organization when we come back from break in a few minutes now and hear the story of how their company began, who their customers are, and I think just as interesting is how they're reacting to the current coronavirus challenges in our workplace today. Now, one of the things that this show has changed, or that has changed on this show rather, is that it was initially one night a week, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. And we've since added to the show due to the environment of the coronavirus, the COVID-19 virus. So this is a pre-recorded show. I say this to clarify for those that are fans of the show that listen regularly. This is the pre-recorded show where we have to coordinate times with our guests to get them on the line and spend nearly an hour on the phone going through this interview that you'll hear momentarily. There's another component of the show that's been added very recently, and I'm not sure when this will air, but this was added somewhere around the 25th or 24th of March, which is the 1 p.m. broadcast live from the studio, as we focus specifically on small business needs in reaction to the coronavirus outbreak. So what you're going to listen to here momentarily is an interview that's been pre-recorded, and I have to say, these interviews have often been very, very difficult to coordinate due to the busyness of the people we're targeting. However, due to the coronavirus outbreak, finding them and getting them on the phone has proven to be much less difficult. They're eager for something to do. They're active people like you and me who have been cooped up into an environment. And when we call and say, are you available? Their answer is usually, yes, 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 I'm happy to do something. And it's a delight to not have to chase them down. When we get back, we're going to meet the owner, the founder, the CEO of ShipShape Urban Farms. Farms inside containers, movable across the country with a great market opportunity. We'll ask them about that when we get back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. Find us on Facebook, What's Working with Cam Marston. Find us on Instagram, where you can keep up with the things that we've got going on. We'll be back.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please pull forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
Even if we don't meet in person, Regions is still here for you. We make it easier for you to stay informed and in control with online and mobile banking. You can check balances, transfer money, pay bills, deposit checks with Regions Mobile Deposit, and even set up helpful alerts no matter where you are. We're here to make it easier to bank your way. Learn more at regions.com/tools. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
You're listening to What's Working, presented by Regions. On the line with me is Dale Speetjens. Dale is the co-founder and CEO of ShipShape Urban Farms. It's an agri-tech company focused on the design, manufacturing, and operation of hydroponic farms built inside shipping containers. Dale, thank you for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on the radio today.
There's so much to go into on this, and I know this ShipShape Urban Farms is one of many things that you're stirring, but I want to focus on this one, the ShipShape Urban Farms, to begin with. Pretend like I've never heard of anything like this before. Tell me what it is you do, what it looks like, who the customer is, where the idea came from. Give me the story.
Yeah, so ShipShape came out of a studio project when I was in landscape architecture school up at Auburn back in 2012. Basically, I took an old dilapidated A1 rail line and turned it into a downtown for the west end of Birmingham. This was all theoretical. It was all conceptual studio design. But I put farms and restaurants and bars and shops all in shipping containers in Birmingham, and that's kind of where the initial idea came from. Then you fast forward a handful of years, I come down back home to Mobile, and I work for Mayor Stimson on the Bloomberg Innovation team, and I was one of the project managers and worked on the Blight project with a bunch of other great folks, and basically we analyzed the city for the first time ever and figured out what to do with all the blighted structures. And we've been written about and talked about in Fast Time and Strong Towns and a bunch of other great magazines that get national and international recognition for the great work that Mobile has done on that project. But after about 2 years, I realized I needed to go and start something on my own. So I left the city and I launched ShipShape Urban Farms with my wife while teaching up at Auburn part-time.
So I want to interrupt this conversation. I've got a follow-up question for you, but I can't help but notice the bird chirping in the background. Let's just go ahead and acknowledge that you and I are both in the coronavirus, self-isolation, quarantine type of world right now. I opened the show by saying you might hear my children in the background. They're doing their online schooling right now. It sounds like you're in a non-traditional work environment with that bird in the background. Is that correct?
You could say that. I'm sitting on my deck with my cat staring at birds and in the center of downtown Mobile. So if you hear the random car or ambulance or something along those lines, it's probably fairly likely.
That's absolutely fine. That's the world that we're in. Let's go back to your story. Now, why shipping containers? Of all things that you could have put this stuff in, and we still haven't discussed what this stuff is, but why shipping containers? Why not, brownfield developments of empty department stores or grocery stores? Goodness knows, barely some of the malls these days are going to be empty very soon due to this recession. Why not use something that's already built versus a shipping container?
Well, the shipping container is already built.
Well,
so
that's a good point.
Why we actually did it is I saw it as kind of a mobile building, I guess is the best way to describe it. So it's a farm that you can move anywhere. So one of the reasons why I kind of kept going back and we decided to launch the company is because during my time on the innovation team, we came to the conclusion that a way to solve blighted and vacant lots throughout the city would be to put gardens or farms on them. And so what better use than turning 320 square feet into a 3.5 acre farm? So if you think about it, we can take a vacant lot, something that's, maybe a quarter of an acre, and put the equivalent of a 30 or 40 acre farm on it using the technology that we've been working on with my team at ShipShape.
Does take me into this container? I'm going to open the door. It's two not swivel doors, but it's two swinging doors, and I'm going to pull it open. What am I going to see?
Well, actually, you don't even enter from there. We built a custom door with all of our electrical and HVAC and all that other kind of good stuff on the opposite end of the container. And when you open up the system, you're going to see everything that you need to grow a plant in 5 to about 7 weeks, depending on what kind of plants we're growing, which kinds of lettuces and herbs and leafy greens. But you're going to see everything from a nursery to pumps to nutrient delivery systems to a number of racks that the individual heads of lettuce and other leafy greens grow on.
Are the plants growing in there all, I assume the design for this is consumables. We're growing lettuce, we're growing cabbage, we're growing perhaps beans or tomatoes. This isn't for pine tree seedlings or pecan trees or anything like that.
No, we've got ideas about how to make a germination system, and that's what you're talking about with, germinating trees or other crops. But this particular system is geared 100% to smaller crops. So smaller, high dollar, high value kind of crops, and they're all grown hydroponically. So you'll see stuff like kales and different types of lettuces and microgreens. There's things that you see on, high-end restaurants on your dinner plate, the garnishes that chefs like to use. You'll see stuff like that growing in there. We've experimented even with strawberries and had some good come out of it and some bad. We had strawberries that were gigantic, gorgeous, but tasted like water. And then we had little ugly ones that you never want to, you wouldn't see it in the field and go up and grab it and want to eat it, but they were the best strawberries I've ever had.
Interesting. Polar opposites, ones that are made for photographing and ones that are made only for eating.
Most certainly.
Yeah. That's interesting. So you've got, so let's talk about actually the equipment inside this container. You've got hydroponic delivery systems. Obviously that means some sort of water. You've got to have some sort of faux sunlight, some sort of fake sunlight in there to grow this type of thing. Tell me what you use. Is the water infused with fertilizer, with nutrients, or is it just something, do you just hook the hose up to it?
So the entire system is controlled by your smartphone, can be controlled by your smartphone and a computer that's in there. And we run lights for about 20 hours out of a 24-hour period, running many day-night cycles. And so all the lights are LED lights. The entire system uses something called a nutrient film technique, or NFT. And that's basically a little bitty trickle of water going over the roots of the plants. And that happens all day, all night, 24/7. This little stream of water goes over the roots of the plants. And that stream of water has everything that the plants need to grow and be strong. So it has the calcium, the nitrogen, all that other stuff that we infuse into the water. And we do this and then recycle that water through the system. So in a given month, we only use about 300 gallons of water. So it's about 90% less water than a traditional farm would use to produce the same amount of crops.
Say that again. Percentage of water a normal farm would use. I need to hear that again.
It's about 90% less water.
Less water
than a traditional farm would use to produce the same amount of crops.
Oh, the questions. Who are you copying an idea here that someone else has begun elsewhere and refining it, or is everything you're doing here brand spanking new to your knowledge on planet Earth?
Yes and no. So there's components that are brand new, but hydroponics and this method of hydroponics is something that's been around for about, since the 1930s, 1920s. And so basically the way we laid out the system, the way we designed certain components, that's brand new. We've got a really innovative tray system that lets you harvest about a dozen heads of lettuce at once. instead of one at a time, making it a lot easier to operate the system. We're one of about, a half dozen in the country that are doing something similar to us. But we're all doing it slightly different. Like, you've got some folks that are doing it vertically. So they're using something called a drip irrigation system. Some people are using aeroponics, where you spray the roots of the plants. Some people are doing stuff kind of similar to us. Some people are using stuff like it's called an ebb and flow system, where you flood the roots every hour for a certain number of minutes. So there's a lot of variations. There's about 7 or 8 different types of hydroponic processes that you could implement to be able to grow crops indoors, basically.
The motivation for yours was to help the blighted neighborhood. What are your competitors, if you call them that? What is their motivation for developing this technology?
So a lot of the folks are out there selling it one and done. What we actually want to do is a little bit bigger than just the blighted neighborhoods. That may have been where we kept getting pulled back to, finding a way to alleviate blight, finding a way to alleviate food deserts, which are places where people can't get access to fresh, healthy food. But what we're really trying to do is create a network of ShipShape urban farmers throughout the South and throughout the country, and eventually internationally, that use our technology, that we all work together to act as, that buying power to go out and buy nutrients, to buy seeds, to buy other materials that you need to grow, act as, basically a distributive farm across the U.S. where we can be closer to the end users, the people that consume the food. Because right now, almost all the lettuce that you get in this country travels about 2,500 miles. It comes from the other side of the country.
Right, from the
out in California.
Yeah.
So think about it. If you have your farms closer to your cities, it means that we're able to sell crops, higher quality crops, for similar prices to what you'd pay for, say, a lettuce that was grown and harvested 4 weeks ago. And we've all experienced this, where you open up the bag of salad and it literally turns brown immediately.
Yeah.
Our stuff doesn't do that. When you have some of our lettuce, it lasts for weeks and weeks and weeks. And a lot of folks around Mobile who probably never tried our stuff are probably getting it right now because of the coronavirus. We donated our entire greenhouse and a large section of our container garden, our test container garden, to either Feeding the Gulf Coast or to Central Presbyterian Church in Midtown.
Let's pick it up there, Dale. I got to take a break and give the advertisers an angle, and I can't thank you enough for your donations. Folks, Dale Speetjens is the co-founder and CEO of ShipShape Urban Farms. They're growing food in containers, and it's really a remarkable idea. Dale, when we get back, I want to talk about your customers. I want to talk about who is threatened by this. I could see that some industries may be threatened by this. And I want you to ask that bird to stick around. I think it's perfect that guy's in the background chirping at us as we go through. Folks, you're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working? Presented by Regions. We'll be back after this break.
I'm David Nelson, brewmaster and owner of Braided River Brewing. We want beer that goes along no matter where the adventure takes us and that doesn't make us choose between great beer and drinkability. We're drawn to the Delta and united by beer because to us, the best way to celebrate the Delta is to slow down and savor the moments and the beer together. Come visit our tap room in downtown Mobile and ask for us at your favorite bar or restaurant. Visit online at braidedriverbrewing.com.
Investing, connecting, leading, providing. The Community Foundation of South Alabama brings together philanthropic assets to make Southwest Alabama a better place to live, work, and play. We link donors to philanthropy. Working with you, we build communities. Contact us at communityfoundationsa.org.
Human Resource Departments spend countless hours on insurance billing mistakes, Obamacare rules, and compliance. Employee benefits serve the purpose of recruiting, retaining, and rewarding employees. We can handle all of your benefit needs with cost-effective products, employee enrollments, and handle your HR issues. Benefit admin doesn't have to be complicated. My name is Michael Cowart Jr. of the Cowart Group, and we specialize in helping businesses with their employee benefit packages. Visit cowartassociates.com.
You're listening to What's Working, brought to you by Regions. I'm Cam Marston. Dale Speetjens began his career serving in the United States Armed Forces in the Army National Guard. He graduated Auburn summa cum laude. He's with a Bachelor of Environmental Design, a Master's in both Landscape Architecture and Urban Planning. He's the co-founder and CEO of ShipShape Urban Farms, as well as a number of other startups that I hope we have time to get into. Dale, just prior to the break, I said, who are your customers? In my mind's eye, I could see the military being a customer. Am I on the right path here?
Yeah, I would love to see that happen. So I was when I was in the military, I served over in Iraq in 2004, 2005 timeframe. And one of the things that happened, like in all wars, our supply lines were attacked. And so I wound up eating MREs day in, day out for probably about 2 or 3 months. And, we down here on the Gulf Coast, MRE is great and it's fun for a hurricane weekend when we have no power and can't cook. But 3 months of it, you kind of get over it.
Yeah, I bet.
So I see ShipShape Urban Farms, our containers would be great to be able to bring them to an engagement, drop them off. The soldiers can use them for the year or number of years that the engagement's going on. And then we could turn it over to the local population. So it'd be a one part humanitarian maneuver, but it would also be feeding the troops and getting something that was fresh and not freeze dried in them.
Well, I could certainly understand how the troops would enjoy it. Tell me this, couple questions. How many people does it take to operate one of these things? How many hours a day? Is this labor intensive? My suspicion is it's fairly easy.
It is pretty easy. So it takes about 20-ish hours a week.
A week, 20 hours a week. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Once you get someone who knows what they're doing, on average, about 20 hours a week. When you have someone that knows what they're doing, we've gotten it down to probably about 10 hours a week. Someone operating it, basically focused on harvesting, replanting, cleaning the system. And then once a month, you have to do things like, change out the water reservoir and add new nutrients and stuff along those lines.
So you need an available supply of water. You need, I would suspect, a continuous line of electricity. This thing's got to be powered. The LED lights on their 20 hours on, they've got to have a stream of electricity. Is there anything else that I'm overlooking that is needed? You need people, 20 hours a week on average, water and electricity. Is there something else?
You basically need seeds and nutrients and farm supplies, and that's it.
So if I were to come to you today and say, hey, I'd like one of your containers, does it come, quote unquote, planted? You'd send it to me planted, and do I put an order in for I want some lettuce and I want some cabbage and I want some kale? How does that work?
Well, so yes, kind of. So if you were to order one, it takes us about 8 weeks or so to build each one. Probably a little longer with the coronavirus right now.
Yeah.
But it takes about 8 weeks for us to build one. And once we're done building it, we ship it out to you. And when it gets in place, it hooks to power, water, and you turn it on. And within about 5 to 6 weeks, you'll have your first harvest.
And do I replant or do you replant? Do you come pick it up and send me a new one if I wanted a second one, or can I use this container over and over and over again?
No, it's actually designed to be put onto a cycle. So every week you harvest over 1,000 heads of lettuce, about 1,200 heads of lettuce, depending on how it's configured and what we're growing in it. So if you're growing romaine, we can push that up closer to about 1,500. If you're growing big heads like butter exclusively, it might drop down to around 1,000, depending on how it's set up. So it just depends on configuration, how many heads you'd be able to get out of the system every single week. And
Is sunlight, I know you've got fake sunlight with the LED lights, but I'm curious if sunlight on a plant, natural sunlight on a plant, changes the flavor profile of the plant so that I could, if I had a refined palate, I could taste some of your lettuce versus taste, say, quote unquote, traditional grown head of lettuce, and I'd be able to notice the difference. Is your food, does it stand up taste profile on every way to something grown in natural sunlight?
Actually, I'm sure you're probably like most of us. Whenever you buy lettuce from the grocery store, you cover it with dressing.
That's right. It's a blue cheese infusion device is what lettuce is.
You don't need that with our lettuce. So it actually tastes a lot better. One, because it's so much fresher, but two, we're controlling the exact nutrients that the plants are known to need. And this is all done by, scientists working at universities like Auburn and other places like that, that specifically focus on how plants grow. Or one of their big focuses is how plants grow. So we're growing the exact nutrients. It's not the sunlight that changes the flavor profile. It's what's the plant uptaking. What are the nutrients like? Does it have the right amount of calcium, the right amount of nitrogen, other stuff along those lines? So that's what changes the flavor of the plant more so than anything. So if you have something that doesn't have that, you can definitely taste it.
Who is threatened by this product? I can see a farmer. I can see, believe it or not, and something that was complained about a while ago we don't hear much about, the immigrant workforce that used to come up from Mexico to pick the crops and then go back. They're no longer needed for something like this. I could see chemical companies, BASF, and all the agroeconomic chemical companies, if that's the right word, fertilizer companies being threatened by this. I can see pesticide companies being threatened by this because you no longer need gobs of pesticide to spray over your and herbicides over your plants. Who's threatened by this? Who doesn't want this to succeed?
Well, I mean, I could see all of that, but much like every other new technology that comes out, I'm sure those big companies will wind up acquiring companies like ShipShape one day in the not too distant future. Those big ag tech companies that have been around for 50, 100 years. So I don't think traditional farmers are threatened by us either. I think what this system and what this technology and similar technology do is it gives a new generation of farmers an opportunity. There's no way my wife and I, fresh out of college, would have been able to afford buying a traditional farm. There's no way we could drop $500,000 or $1 million on some land. This gives a whole new generation of would-be millennial and younger would-be farmers the opportunity to go out and become farmers and own it themselves and be able to acquire it with an early USDA, a beginning farmer USDA loan.
Yeah. Wow. When the USDA began, they never considered this. Oh, we'll be selling food out of a container. I'm curious if the people that are growing the food are consuming it all themselves, or are they selling it to a secondary market of high-end restaurants or local produce stands on Saturdays? What are the growers doing with the product?
So we actually just went to market in the last few months, and we received our first letter of commitment for a farmer that's outside our local area here recently. I can't share who it is until everything's done, but hopefully the coronavirus won't slow us down too much on that project or his project. But I can tell you a little bit about what we've done in the last couple of years in Mobile. So we've done a couple of different things. We have a lot of great restaurants that we're really hopeful to see come back online real soon, like the Cheese Cottage and a few others that have been very supportive of us. Christy and her team, literally from day one of us opening, have bought something every week from us, from our test systems or our first container. But we've done that. So local restaurants are a big user. Greer's and Old Shell Market are both great examples of grocery stores who've used a lot of our crops and a lot of our products over the last couple of years and have been very supportive of us. And then also, places like Market in the Park, the farmers market, stuff along those lines. We've participated in that. And then we've also, for a couple of years, did something called a CSA, or Community Supported Agriculture. So you can kind of think of it like Netflix for food. You pay a monthly subscription. Every single month, you get a basket of produce from us. Unfortunately, we stopped that a while ago. we have recently started working to basically sell to produce companies. So we actually stopped our CSA about 5 months ago.
Yeah. You wanted to sell to the produce companies rather than directly to the end user. I suppose there's more opportunity with the produce companies, huh?
Yeah, there definitely is. But what we've really tried to do is on a very quick level, understand the pain points that our clients might experience. So we wanted to know what it was like to operate a CSA using our tech and growing lettuce and having other things. We wanted to know what it was like to sell to restaurants and at farmers markets and to produce companies. And the produce companies was last on the list because it's quite intensive to get something called a GAP certification. And that's what farmers have to get. And it takes about a year, and it takes about probably about $5,000 for an individual to go out and get GAP certified. But when you buy one of our container gardens, we've done all the hard work, building and writing the manual for you, and we hand it off to our customers. And they basically are able to go apply for GAP almost immediately.
Are your containers, well, two questions. Do they make any noise? Let's say I wanted one in my backyard, and I just loved vegetables, and we all loved vegetables, and I wanted one in my backyard. Do they make any noise?
Well, so inside, you'll hear the pumps running, the different hoses putting water into the different sections and trays, and you'll hear a lot of fans. Outside, it's much like any other building. You're not going to hear anything outside the container. It just, sits there, looks much like a normal shipping container.
I assume it's got an air conditioner unit on it because it can't be, it would get 2,000 degrees in September in that thing. So it's got to have an air conditioner.
It does. It has a pretty robust HVAC system on it. We control everything inside the container garden, from the lighting to the humidity to the CO2 to the air temperature. So we do a lot of environmental controls, and that's why the shipping container is really appealing to us. It gives us a mobile farm.
Yeah. Do you paint them? If I were to drive by,
do
they have a distinct look to them so I would know that it's yours when I drove by?
They are ShipShape green.
which is the color of a lettuce leaf, huh?
Yeah, it pretty much looks like a lettuce leaf color with our logo on it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love this idea. When we come back, will you tell, if I were to come to you and let's say go online and order one, say, hey, I want one. Could you tell us when we come back what these things cost?
Yeah, be happy to.
All right. That should be tantalizing, folks. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. On the line is Dale Speetjens. He's the CEO and co-founder of ShipShape Farms. On to something pretty cool when we come back. Make a guess now, folks. Make a guess now for what you think one of these things would cost fully loaded with your favorite vegetable, and we'll see whether you're very close. I have an idea. Well, I have an idea. You're listening to What's Working, presented by Regions. I'm Cam Marston, and we'll be right back.
The Community Foundation of South Alabama links donors to philanthropy, builds networks across 8 counties, and builds dreams for those in need. Through our donors' gifts, we make investments that enhance our community via initiatives with broad impact. Working with you, we build communities. Contact us at communityfoundationsa.org.
Life insurance is one of those subjects that make people want to change the subject rather than admit they probably don't have enough. I'm State Farm agent Allison Horner, and that's why I focus on how the benefits of life insurance actually live on by asking people to think in terms of life without having to sell the house insurance, or life without having to give up college insurance. Find out how the benefits of life insurance can live on for your family. Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, and get to a better state with State Farm.
I'm Matt Armbruster with Ransom Ministries. We help people in our community that most others have given up on. Please donate your unwanted electronics to Ransom Recycling. We teach life skills, job readiness, and job creation through our electronic recycling program. We take anything with a cord. Find us at ransomministries.com, or you can call us at 251-751-0044.
listening to What's Working, brought to you by Regions. I'm Cam Marston. Dale Speetjens is the co-founder and CEO of ShipShape Urban Farms. Interestingly enough, I have his bio here in front of me. Mr. Speetjens was asked to teach alongside an international team of architects, landscape architects, urban designers, and planners at the Galapagos International Architecture Studio in the Galapagos Island. Dale, that sounds like a boondoggle to me. We're going to make you a teacher, quote-unquote teacher, and send you to quote-unquote school to quote-unquote teach in the Galapagos. Tell me a little bit about that before we get into what these things cost.
So that was actually one of the best experiences of my life. So I worked with all these great students from everywhere from China to Australia to South America to Europe. And over the course of 5 weeks, I taught for, I think it was about 3 weeks of that class. Basically, we looked at how to make the Galapagos Islands more sustainable. So people think of it as this wild place, nothing but giant tortoises and the Darwin finches. But in all actuality, about 90,000 people live there, and about 2 million scientists and tourists come through the islands every single year. And so while the place is very, very maintained as to where people can develop and build, there is a question of what does it look like over the next 100 years or 50 years? How do they develop and not adversely affect that very delicate ecosystem? And so that's really what I explored with my students and with the other professors for the month or so that I was down there.
It's been a place on my bucket list, and in fact had an articulated argument, very well articulated argument for my family to go there on vacation. I lost to something like a theme park, I'm sure, but on my bucket list is to see that place. All right, let's get back to the question asked before the break. I go online and I say, all right, I want one of these containers. I got a spot for it. I know what I'm going to do with all the consumables that come out of it. And I hit the, go to cart or buy now button. What is one of these containers brand new going to run me?
So a container will be $95,000 for the regular farmer user, but nonprofits and veterans, we offer a $10,000 discount on their system. Now, that system has about roughly a 14-month return on that investment. So you'll make all of that back in about 14 months, which anybody who operates or runs a business will tell you, getting a return on investment on a new business within 5 years is a pretty good deal.
Agree. Yeah. So how are you measuring that return on investment? How are you quantifying those numbers?
So we looked at basically our local market. How much did we sell in here in Mobile? How much did we sell it for? And how many heads can we produce inside the container garden versus what we're able to produce down here in Mobile and sell down in the Mobile market?
Yeah. So if you were to, let me ask you this, who's buying this right now? Who has clicked the buy now button, and where have you sent your containers?
So like I was saying earlier, we just went to market in the last few months.
Yeah.
We have not shipped out a container to a client yet. It's been a number of years of R&D and testing. Every time we make a change, it takes 5 weeks to know if that change actually made a change in the technology. So it's been a number of years of testing and research and development. But right now we have conversations going on with everything from universities to high schools to elementary schools to traditional farmers to restaurants to big chains like produce companies and big restaurant chains, to looking at buying our technology and utilizing it to offset some of their costs.
What about the arid nations of the world? You got these, money doesn't seem to be an issue in Qatar or Saudi Arabia or these places over there where buying luxurious items is cheap for them, and getting fresh food out of the container would seem to be a great market. Of course, I don't have a number to give you. I don't know the Sultan, and I can't share his email address with you. But have you considered these selling them to governments in arid parts of the world?
So we've looked at NGOs and governments, and we've actually got we've had a couple of conversations with different governments about that very idea. So there definitely most certainly is an opportunity in places like that. But we just haven't gotten to that point yet as a company. Like I said, we've not been selling the tech for very long.
Yeah.
We've been really focused on making sure that what we're building is the best thing that we could possibly put out. And then in addition to that, wanting to really focus on our local region to begin with, to build that network that I described earlier, where we have all these farmers working together to basically help cover each other and help ensure success across a number of different farms.
So I was at a conference in Nashville before the economy evaporated, and listening to an economist talk about, he was speaking to a group of farmers or people that are in the farming business. And he continued to talk about how technology has increased our ability to grow food. In other words, we're growing more food using less acreage, using less water, using less fertilizer through the technologies of developing these seeds and these plants, etc. We have really done some remarkable things in growing food. What we haven't attacked is new consumable uses for the food, with the exception perhaps being ethanol from corn that we're putting in gasoline now. How does that relate to what you're doing? You've found a better way to grow food in a smaller footprint, but we aren't consuming it at the pace that we're growing it. Does that make sense?
Well, I think actually we are going to be consuming it even faster than we can grow it, because if you think about it, the world population is what? I believe it's projected to be 9 billion by 2100. So if you do the math, we are just going to need more food for all the people that we have coming onto the planet over the next 50, 60, 75 years. So yes, there's definitely other uses for it. And I'm sure at some point, some other smart folks will come up with a way of doing the kinds of things that we're doing in enclosed spaces. But what we're doing is solving a very particular problem, a couple of very particular problems. And I think food miles and the distance to the end user and freshness and the quality are some of the big things that we're helping solve at this time.
Yeah. I hope you're right. I love the idea. I want you to be right. I want to transfer real quick. Your bio tells me about some of the as interesting things you're doing outside of the ShipShape urban farms. Pick any one of them that you feel like will be most of interest to the listeners.
Well, actually, if the coronavirus wouldn't have hit, I would tell everyone to please come see us at Festival of Flowers. ShipShape was one of the key sponsors of it this year, and I did all the design work for the Festival of Flowers, and it was inspired by historic Japanese garden design.
Ooh.
So it was pretty neat stuff. Right now, the field and the rock garden and all the other fun things are being broken down as we speak, unfortunately. But the good news is we're going to install it next year. So it would be great if everyone please attended the Festival of Flowers event and saw what we had going on and what we've designed. And I cannot say enough good things about that team of folks. They were wonderful to work with, and all the volunteers, all the different organizations have been, really kind of in a way, I think let down by this. So having a wonderful attendance next year would probably make up for the fact that they had to cancel for the first time in almost 30 years this event.
So we're talking March of 2021 is going to be the next Festival of Flowers.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, and you're still going to be the lead designer, still going to be the Japanese garden. Everything this year, essentially, it's been pushed back a year. Not canceled, but pushed back a year.
That's correct, and I'm sure we'll wind up taking this extra year to find even more ways to make the thing meaningful and exciting and all that other kind of good stuff. So hoping it'll be one of the best festivals we've ever done, since it's going to have 2 years worth of design work into it.
Well, I can certainly see the tie between your education with the environmental design, landscape architecture, urban planning, and Festival of Flowers. It's a connection there. And it kind of, I suppose, if somebody wanted to, They could grow flowers in one of your ShipShape containers. However, the other thing on your bio that I think needs explanation is socks. You heard me right, folks. SOCKS. Dale?
So, my wife and I love mid-century architecture. We love all the 60s design, the flat roofs, the wild buildings, and all the other great stuff that came out of that era, that mid-century architecture. And so I, for free time, doodled and drew a lot. And probably about 6 months ago, my wife said, why do you not find a way to do something with that instead of just drawing it? And so we put the designs on socks. And for about probably the next 3 months, I couldn't figure out how to do well while doing good kind of thing with the sock company. I couldn't find what was it. I didn't want to make a company or build a company or anything that just put something out and didn't do something meaningful while it put something out. So we came up with kind of the Tom's model. We give 10% of all profit back to restoring historic architecture. So every quarter, we're going to donate 10% of the profit that the company makes to restore historic architecture.
And the design is on socks that you send. Yes. I was told by a woman I used to buy clothes from, the only way a man typically can show any sort of flair or character is in the lining of his jacket or his socks. Those are the places that he can kind of show a little bit more personality. The rest of it has to kind of, quote unquote, blend with the fashion of the time. Your socks, and I'm looking at it online, folks, Mid-Mod Socks, MIDMOD socks.com. The designs are fantastic. And if you've sketched these things, is that what I understand?
Yeah. They're just quick sketches. And then I use Adobe software to draw them all out. And or I use my iPad to draw them out. And basically, I'm putting together a handful of others every month. I try to put out one drawing, but it was probably 6 months in the, kind of 6 months to a year worth of drawings that I can pull from. And then I just put them on a pair of socks. I've got a great manufacturer up in North Alabama. So everything that we do is U.S. made. Yeah. It uses the highest quality socks. They're very high quality athletic socks. If I wouldn't want to wear them, I wouldn't want other people to wear them. Yeah. That's kind of how the way I looked at it.
Well, as I've learned on this show through several other guests like yourself, I suspect Instagram is going to be a big channel for you. It seems like so many businesses out there have relied on Instagram, and people that are fans of the show have heard me say it repeatedly. By the way, as I look, the MCM blue chairs thus far are my favorite. Folks, this is a subscription model. You'll get another pair each month. It's absolutely fascinating and non-traditional. You grow things in containers in a remarkable way, and you got some cool socks that you sell as well.
Thank you. Always trying to do something fun and interesting.
Dale, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. I want to wish you the best. If they want to find out more about the container, the ShipShape Farms, what is that web address?
Yeah, you can find us at ShipShapeUrbanFarms.com. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
We wish you the best. I can't wait to see it come to fruition in the way that you see it in your mind's eye. Congratulations. Well done. Folks, Dale Speetjens, co-founder and CEO of ShipShape Urban Farms. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working? Presented by Regions. We'll be back after this break with final comments.
Do you sometimes wonder about different money topics, but struggle to find the answers? The Every Dollar Counts podcast with Gulf Coast experts Josh Knoll and Jay Stubbs is made for those folks serious about their financial plan and looking for answers. Josh and Jay dedicate their time to explaining the various services and products available, as well as discussing lifestyle and money interests of the modern-day family. Tune in to Every Dollar Counts on Apple Podcasts and everywhere else you get your favorite podcasts.
That's the sound of rush hour. Hello, recess. Mom! Work from home is a lot of work. Even though we're a little further apart right now, we're still in this together. Regions is donating this ad to local food banks to shine a light on them as they feed our neighbors in need. Learn how you can help or get help at regions.com/foodbank. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stella's. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
Dale Speetjens is an interesting guy, if you couldn't have picked that up already. I get the sense that his mind is always on, looking for something to do with his creative capabilities. And this idea of ShipShape Urban Farms, the farm in the container, I can see it catching on. You know, there's just an extraordinary opportunity for this idea to catch on. I could see a grocery store chain adopting these things and selling their own fresh produce that's grown on site. You know, even perhaps in the store, that you walk up next to one of these containers knowing what's growing inside of it, and next to the container is the produce that comes out of that container. What an image that would be. It could very well be that somewhere down the road, far into the future, a generation of children looks at each other and says, can you believe that my parents or grandparents rather, used to eat food that was grown in the ground? Folks, it's always appropriate to leave you with the social media contacts, and I hope you will check us out, click on it, like it, friend it, whatever it may be. That's the best way to keep up with us and what we got going on. Instagram, What's Working with Cam Marston, all one word, no apostrophes. Facebook, search for What's Working with Cam Marston. You'll find us in there. Twitter, What's Working Cam. And the phone number, 251-260-8100. Again, 251-260-8100. That's a phone/text line. Leave us a message. And email, cam@whatsworking.com is the email. You can find the show on the podcast. Go to cammarston.com. You'll find the podcast link across the top of the page. Click on that. It'll bring you to our podcast site where you can subscribe to these podcasts as well as send them to other people who you think may find them of interest. As always, please respond to, like, rate, evaluate the podcast. It's amazing how much that stuff happens or how much it matters. So let me ask you one more thing as we close this week's show. As I said in the opening, we're now doing for a period of time an additional 2 shows per week, Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. These are live broadcasts done out of the studio. This one that you're listening to now is pre-recorded based on the schedule of our guests. Though the Tuesday, Thursdays are live out of the studio, focusing on small businesses' needs today. And if you have thoughts of what those needs may be based on our current environment of the COVID-19, what does small business need to know? Go back to any of those social media sites and give me your thoughts about what help you need. Let me find the answers, and I'll bring them to you Tuesday, Thursday at 1 o'clock. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Show is produced by John Thompson. All the interviews are prepared and arranged by Kristen Ogden. We'll have another show next week.